Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to yet another edition of the Lambom Show. Today is Wednesday, April 21st, and we are continuing our weekly conversations on African immigrants and African development. As always, we are privileged and pleased to have with us Ed Okpa. Today he's putting on his economic development hat. We listened to him, we watched last week the great announcement he made on our show about being appointed to the board, securities board in state of Texas. And we're going to be following up with him to see how this plays out. But today we want to go into some, very interesting aspect of African development that most of us have not really paid attention to. We are looking at airports and aviation. And we are, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Sr Okpa wrote some little thing that I'm going to publish on my page, talking about airports. Again, we can make the distinction between airports and aviation, isn't it? Even though the two are linked. Planes will not fly and land on grass. But the point he's making is about one aspect of African development that has not been really taken care of is airports. And part of the reason he's going to be explaining is because most Africans don't fly. And so is there a need to have 3-4 airports in a country when you could build up a regional network and, have some other things attached to it that will make it easier? And that's based off the experience you have. I think every state in the US, for example, has an airport, every one of them. Some have 2, 3. And I think there are six international airports, 6 or 8 of them, connecting from all over. And so you have the international airports, you have regional airports. So in the DC metro area, for example, you fly into Dulles, which is in Virginia, and Dulles, you can go from Dulles to Baltimore, which is in Maryland, and in DC you have Reagan. So those are 3 airports within each of them is about 45. I think the furthest would be an hour 30 minutes away. So you have 3 airports, but all of them are serving different functions in different states. Baltimore in Maryland, Reagan in DC, and Dulles in Virginia. There's a lot that comes with all this infrastructure, tourism, and the concessions. Why is it that our own African airports, we are not taking advantage of that? Let's roll out this conversation, find out what Sr Okpa has to offer. And again, as always, I want to welcome you. Thank you for being on. I hope you're feeling better this week. You were cycling, you did you cycled last weekend, I think Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So the one thing about Sr Okpa is that he's also very athletic. Always, I'll post some of those someday so that you see how he's keeping fit. But Sr Okpa, welcome. And how's your week going?
Hello. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're on point.
Well, thank you for again, weekly conversation, and we usually don't know what we're going to talk about until maybe some hours before. So earlier I just wrote that piece, which took me, 10, 15 minutes to just write it, and it comes from, looking at airports and how airports can become an economic engine. When I go to Nigeria, go to some African countries, you come over there, there's nothing around the airport. You land, you take your bag, check out, boom, you're out of the city, going where you're going. But when you look at an airport is usually an engine, because you have a lot of people coming in. Either that's their final destination or they are trying to catch another flight somewhere else. And so while they're doing it, some people might want to shop, some people might want to stay, some people might say, you know what, let me do a tourist something and then before my next flight. When I went to Greece, I flew into Madrid in Spain and I had like a 6 or 7 hour layover. And then I just checked my bag into a locker system. And then the next thing I know, I was in a train going into Madrid. Had lunch, spent some money, and still made it back, caught my flight, and then went to Greece. So, but around the airport, you will see there's a lot of things, there's the rail connectivity, there's road connectivity, and then there are hotels around the airport. You have logistics centers, which is warehousing for cargo. So you can ship in, you can ship out from the airport. So all of these things create, what is the wholesome infrastructure around the airport. But if you go to Africa, it's usually nothing. The lounges are very lousy. They are nothing really. The concession, the retail stores there don't have a whole lot of variety. So I'm saying, why do we have to do when we do what everybody else is doing and getting benefit out of it? Why is it that our own doesn't produce benefit? Because it's politicians. The politicians do this. Some minister or governor can say, "Oh, build one in my village." And how many flights? If the airplanes are not coming in with passengers, and these people are not connecting from that to somewhere else, so this is a waste. So if you look at the case of, for instance, Ghana, Ghana said, "Oh, their airport is good." How many passengers go there? 1 point something million. But what if Ghana with Sierra Leone, no, Liberia, so to find a location within these 3, 4 countries and build one huge airport? It becomes the regional whatever. They create an authority. So when you land in that airport, you catch a train or rent a car and you go to Accra or you go to Freetown or you go to Monrovia or you go to Cote d'Ivoire. All of those 2, 3, or 4 countries are within it's within 2, 3 hours of driving time. And then you improve your tourism. Because airports is what? Take off, land, is it not?
Yeah.
There's nothing in between. But when you do the ground transportation, you have the benefit of stops. So you must say, you know what? I don't have to be in Ghana until 2 days. Let me just go around in Cote d'Ivoire or Liberia, look around, do some touristy stuff, and then I catch my flight. So, or even within the same country, you can do regional. Instead of having small airport everywhere. In America, we have variety of airports. We have the international, we have regional, we have corporate, what they call general aviation, where corporate people who have their own plane just go in and park. And then we have ones in counties, small towns where it's basically a runway. Boom, there's a runway, they land, they go park, they go to the hangar, there's a tower that tells them to, what to do. So airports are all over, but I'm talking about the ones that create economic impact, that bring in millions of passengers, and then help those passengers get to their destination. Either that's their final or that's the one stop. So Africa needs to change or consider how they do those infrastructure. And until they do it in a regional basis, because most countries, you look around, most countries are not able to absorb like $2-3 billion worth of economic project. Not Sierra Leone, not Liberia, not Ghana. Do you know? Ghana just said, "Oh, some foreigner is going to come in there and spend $100 million to do infrastructure around the airport." And I was like, so no Ghanaian bank or rich Ghanaian people can come together and put up that kind of money. You got to go borrow it out abroad to do. Because when you borrow that money, what do? You got to pay it back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to leave. Yeah, the interest and the principal going to leave your country. So why can't you? So what is this noise about Africans are rich? Remember something I wrote recently? There are a bunch of rich people in Africa, but they're hardly wealthy people. Because every little... So the Ghanaian who sent me that information came back and said, "Oh, there's no bank in Ghana that can lend you $100 million." So I was like, what? $100 million? I do a project, a little real estate project here in Dallas that is almost $84 to $200 million. I don't even need to know the mayor. But in most African countries, it's a big deal. They run into the World Bank. They run into some foreigners. That is why Africa doesn't get wealthy, because they don't know how to keep their money working for them. Even if your currency has been devalued, you can still use it to do stuff. And let the people that live there subscribe to it. So as you're paying back the debt, you pay into them. Remember? If you have borrowed that money from Ghanaians, let's say you said, okay, we need 100,000 Ghanaians to put up $1,000. I think that's what's going to give you $100 million or something like that, and we're going to pay you back. Because I mean, is that hard to do? It's not hard to do, but you got to think it. You got to think creative, and then you have to have law that backs that investment.
Right. So again, like I said, I'm going to put up this article, but it says in the numbers matter, not the length of the runway or beauty of the lounges, isn't it? So Accra in Ghana, the airport there in 2020, they had 1.57 million people. I mean, visitors who landed. Yes. In Lagos, 5.37 million. In Dallas Love Field, that's 7.7 million. And Dallas Fort Worth, that's one of the biggest here, if I'm not mistaken, is 75 million passengers.
Yes.
That's amazing. And
yeah,
Dallas Fort Worth,
just that one airport, if you count the entire African traveling public, I don't even think they have 75 million people, throughout Africa that hopped in an airplane in and out in a year. So, but you see, so it shows you what aviation is. Aviation aviation, of course, enabled by airport, is a time saver, because instead of you driving from Maryland to New York or Georgia, you say, "Oh, sure, let me fly." It's 1 hour or something, boom, you go. So it's a time saver. But as you're saving time, you also have to have other things that can entice and impress passengers. That's why American airports, the lounges are beautiful. You have stores, you have this, you have that. Some people might say, "You know what? I do it the next day. I'm just gonna, hop in a train or rent a car and just go see the city, and then I catch my train." That's tourism, because now you look at how much money they're gonna spend. And anybody traveling and spending a day or a few hours in a particular location, oftentimes they're going to spend no less than $50 or $100. So do the math with the number of passengers.
So again, let's put it one step further. I mean, by that I mean, when you travel around airports in the United States, most of the call them security agents look like Africans, and you are wondering, from a business perspective, you don't find a typical African store, an African restaurant in any of these airports. And I think that speaks to the point you are making in terms of the fact that we have not taken advantage of the business opportunities that are presented by these airports. And probably because maybe it's too expensive to run an African restaurant.
Well, those are concessions. Those are concessions. I mean, and then the airport boards will from time to time put out requests for proposal for concession, and they welcome diversity of food and diversity of staff, because you're gonna have this number of passengers coming through, and they want to experience something. They want to experience something at the airport. So if you're not there, you're not there. But again, because we are present, doesn't mean we have presence. Africans are all over the place. We have no presence, because oftentimes, we don't understand the politics of the business. We want to go in there, get a job and feel good, which is fine. And a lot of us are going to be in that category. But when you want to go higher, then you have to understand what are the policies and what are the politics behind these things, and how can you, get it. I mean, Ethiopians are one group of Africans that have done well, in the airport shuttle business, and I think in some airport in DC, I don't think they have any restaurants in Reagan, that is Ethiopia themed. But they do a lot of the cab driving and shuttle business and what is the yellow spot stuff. I'm talking about logistics. I'm talking about things that really, really create the economic momentum because of the airport being there. So if you look around all these airports you had mentioned, you're going to see stores, you're going to see logistics, you're going to see offices, and a lot of them are somehow catered to the passenger or the business that goes around the airport.
So,
uh-huh.
It's the same thing about real estate around the airport, isn't it? Because typically there are hotels around.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also have transportation, but in Africa we don't seem to have this happening. Maybe because of the volume, like you say. But I mean, the point you make about regional integration and regional development, have one big airport, then you can build that serves like a hub. Then the rest
Yes,
of
you run trains. You go trains, you go cars, you go highways. So people land. So no, you look at it physically. What's the distance between Cameroon and say Congo? The smaller Congo. Is it they are both neighboring, or even Equatorial Guinea?
Mm-hmm.
So that distance is not 500 miles or 500 kilometers. So boom, you land in one regional airport. You have the government that are in this particular country to own it, and they create an authority. You don't have to, the board. You appoint board members. You don't pay them. You pay for this when they travel on behalf. But when you do that, all of them start to draw salaries. They start to interfere with the management of the airport. I mean, DFW Airport, they have 11 board members. The way that board is appointed, City of Dallas, because City of Dallas has the largest land in where the airport is, they appoint 7 board members, and then City of Fort Worth appoints 4, and then they rotate the chairman of the board. They don't pay them salary. They don't pay them. But you get to, if you become an oversight, you get to participate in discussions about how the airport is run. And because the airport will have what they call the executive director, but the board chair doesn't get paid. But it's a prestigious appointment. Like some of these appointments I get, I don't get paid. The state pays when I travel for business or related something for the board, but it's prestigious. And you get to know and understand you don't even get in a college classroom, because now you become an influencer. You vote on things. You talk about certain things, because the people, the administrative staff will come to the board and talk about issues. And then you get to hear them, and then you get to deliberate, ask more questions, because that's where the policy is. So the same thing for airports. But airports, when you run it just to please the president or the prime minister, it becomes a pet project. When you spend public money like we spend in America, you have to account for it. It has to have impact. It has to create jobs, and it has to be run independent of the wish of the president or the minister. Why have you ever heard of an American Secretary of Aviation? They don't have stuff like that. But in Africa, they say, Minister of what? Aviation. And you look at it, there's 1 or 2 airports that are barely making it to that they are over. What are they ministering over there? Because they go over there and they award contracts to fix a runway. Nigeria, for instance, is where an airport gets shut down because they want to repair the airport, the runway. Have you ever had that in America?
No.
Because and they're repairing an apron or a runway. They say, we're going to shut down the airport for 1 year. It doesn't happen. And then in America, the airlines are tenants on the airport. You have heard the term called hub.
Mm-hmm.
A hub is like a majority airline are going to dominate other airlines in that airport. So, for instance, in Dallas Fort Worth, Dallas International and DFW, American Airlines, that's their hub. So the American airline will control majority of the gates, and then every other airline may fly out of one gate. You go to Love Field, which is owned by City of Dallas, but is the hub for Southwest Airline. The other airlines will get, you know what I mean? So the hub and the airlines that have these places as hub, they contribute significantly to the upkeep of the airport because that's part of their corporate image. So, the international flights that come into Africa, that's not their hub. They just come in there, offload passengers, hang around for a few hours, pick some up and take off. So we don't even have indigenous, airlines that are financially viable that would invest and commit to keep with the upkeep of the airport. It becomes a government thing, the Minister of Aviation or the President. No, we have to run it as a business model. And that business model has to look at revenue generated, expenses that is associated with that revenue, and other impacts they're going to create to bring logistics, warehousing, hotels and restaurants and concessions inside the airport, parking spaces. Do you know one of the single largest revenue for DFW Airport? You know what it is?
No.
Parking. Parking. There's a lot of people. There are people that just travel. They park their car over there and they pay. So when you're paying $20, depending on the parking facility you're using, when you're paying $20 a day and you be gone for 10 days, yeah, $200. Then you look at the millions of cars, or even when you go in and out of the airport. DFW Airport, there's no way you go inside the airport without paying $2.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a revenue stream.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us, you're listening to Sr Ed Okpa, and we're talking about airports in Africa and African development. And you mentioned something. The government has to take responsibility over this, so it becomes a problem. I'm sure there are many African businessmen and women who would have loved to just take over the airport business in their countries and make that profitable. But I guess for security reasons, it becomes a challenge. That's why you don't find airports.
Not so. Not so. Remember, Africa is not run by ghosts. Africa is run by Africans. And these are people who may, from one time when they were not in office, say, when I get over there, I'm going to do better. When they get over there, they do worse than the people they chased out. So some of these things has to have a legal structure. That's why they have to have authority. So African airports don't have authority. They are not independent. They operate based on what the Minister of Aviation or whomever minister that is over that particular asset decides to do. DFW Airport, the mayor of Dallas has no say over what they do. The mayor of Fort Worth the governor of Texas has no say. The president of America has no say over what they do. Can you imagine any airport in Africa that the president has no say? I will go over there and become a citizen of that African country.
So you should go to Nigeria.
The government overwhelms itself, getting involved in everything. I'm sure if you go to Cameroon or Nigeria, for sure, I know government-owned hotels. Is it not?
Mm-hmm.
So where are these so-called African businessmen who are well? They are not well. They are rich people. They don't even know how to go to their National Assembly and begin to lobby for certain laws and regulations to enable them to do more. Instead, what they're doing is chasing personalities who happen to be in office and whose term in office can be shortened when the president leaves or when the president fires them. So you want institutions that will outlive the personality that are in these offices. You don't want okay, because Lambert is my friend. Now you're Minister of Transport, I will go and get contract. Maybe while I'm getting the contract, you are fired. Another minister will come and kick me out. Because they say, oh, I may have bribed you to get the contract, or then let me bribe. You know what I mean? But stuff like that don't happen in this country. Look, since 1993, I've been doing stuff for DFW International Airport, real estate. So I understand how they are set up. I know the model. I've done stuff for Lawfield through their real estate people, and I know the aviation part of their business, how the model works. But it has nothing to do with the mayor. The mayors come and go. The politicians come and go. Of course, in Africa, you have the presidents for life. But when they are for life, they are lifeless. How can you stay on one job that everybody calls your name every day and you think you're going to be effective? Any president that's a president for life is a lifeless president. Go look at it. Mugabe is one. Paul Biya is one. The one in Chad who just got killed is one. They were there 30 something years. After a certain period of time, you're no longer relevant. You're redundant.
So I'm trying to look at the prospect of using aviation as a means of development. We have just established here that it's a gateway to tourism in every country. And maybe that's part of the reason why the government is kind of leery about giving up its responsibilities. And so developing airports, because I mean, I left Cameroon in 2004. The airport I left, I hear stories about it every day. And I wonder whether the country is serious about that development of, if the airport is a gateway to your country and tourism is part of what brings in money, you want to focus on making sure that those areas are like, it's a reflection of the country,
Yes.
But
it's the first impression. It's the first impression, and it's the last impression. So once, because if that's your first time or second time or multiple times, the experience you had at that airport sets the tone what you think of that country. When the immigration people start to shake you down for money, and the custom people start to do all kinds of stuff, in your mind, if you're a foreigner, you may not say anything because you're afraid, but that's where your impression. And then on your way out, so airports become that first impression asset. And when you are landing, you look out the window and you see the land used around it is all nasty and crappy. So you begin to form impression until you touch the ground, and then you go through the hell of having to get out of the airport. And when you get out, you want to get out. That you don't want to stay in any hotel around. You don't want to do anything around the airport until you have to go because you have no other choice. You have to go back in there to get out. But you're supposed to make this in a welcoming asset. And it's hard for us to do. It's hard for us to do. I mean, is it not pouring concrete and calling it a runway, pouring concrete as walls and hanging the roof, you get a building? How come we can't get one that is good? Go to Murtala Mohammed Airport. I mean, it is stinking airport. They don't, okay, just keep the split video, screen, I want to tell you. Okay. Airport's supposed to have what? Water system and sewer system. Because, when those airplanes land, they have to discharge the effluent thing they have, the waste. So
right.
You have tanks that go in and they suck those things out and they take it to sewer plant, or they discharge it to they discharge it to sewer line and it's processed. Murtala Mohammed has no such thing. They grab those things from the airport and they go throw it in an open creek. And then when they come out and from the airport to go to the immigration place, my God, you start sweating immediately because the whole place. Just the visual. The visual aspect of things, it just doesn't welcome you. It makes you agitated. It makes you not be on your guard. Because the physical condition is just not good. The human being respond to physical stimuli or stimulus. So the government needs to hands off. The government needs to and said, hey, we're going to do this. You must generate your revenue, and you must sustain your expenses. We're not going to give, and you must maintain the airport. Are there African businessmen who are willing to commit to such and then be able to deal with the political interference? Because what is going to happen now, it becomes a tribal appointment. Oh, you have to appoint people from my tribe. It could be anybody who has no clue how these things are done. They're on the board. And when they're over there, they want their family members to travel free. Go Google it. Charles Bronson, when Obasanjo came in the early 2000s, he wanted to revive, he had a Virgin Nigeria. He operated for a few years. You know why he left?
No.
The minister wants his family members to travel free to London. Everybody wants to travel free. How are you going to be getting free? How is the airport going to make money? When that airplane takes off, there's a fixed cost. There's a fee taken off, There's a landing fee wherever they're going to go, and then
Yeah.
there's the expenses of the crew, the fuel, the equipment. So for those people involved in the accounting of those airlines, anytime that airplane is in the air, there's a minimum amount of money they want to return to the purse. If not, it's not viable. So that starts with how many passengers, minimum passengers you have to carry, and what you're charging them. Of course, that's the total revenue, or if they have some cargo they're carrying, all of that is the gross revenue. Then you go to now, okay, hire your pilot and your flight attendant, and then you go to your landing fee when you land, and you park the airplane. Sometimes that's why they don't even leave it over there. They turn around in a few hours and they leave, because the landing fee is a charge on their revenue. So if you don't have that sustain, you cannot operate airports and airlines.
Yes. So again, I mean, it sounds interesting. It sounds feasible, but again, the challenges are just enormous for an African country. I'm looking at it and just imagining what will it take to get an airport like Douala in
DFW.
That's what I'm trying to say. That what would it take to get an airport like Douala resemble the one in DFW? That's. I
You can't
mean,
get it
we
to
have
do
talked.
because you can't get it to do because if the executive director of Douala International Airport says, okay, let me go to US and seek partnership, technical assistance with some airport, they have to go to the president to seek authority to do that, or the minister. But if DFW executive director wants to go anywhere, they don't even need to go talk to the mayor. The board just has to approve it, or they have to say this is why. Because some of these things, airports are very finite number. You could count how many of them in any particular country, so they know each other. And then there's also the safety issues about landing and takeoff, taking care of the crew. So they want to make sure that their airplane, when it comes to your own country, the runway is good and certain things are in place. Of course, they can go anywhere if this passenger number is there. But you still have to make it relevant and appealing, for the local population. In fact, in DFW, there's what they call the Founder Square. You can actually go over there. There's a nice restaurant around and watch these airplanes take off and land. It's a beautiful sight to see. Do you have that in Africa? No, you want to get over there and get out. Because sometimes it's smelly, it's right. I mean, if you have ever been to Nigerian airport, when you come out, you see a whole bunch of all these hungry people lined up looking at you like, oh my God, are they going to grab you? I mean, they form a wall in front of the departure, gate, the arrival gate. The first time I went back to Nigeria, this was like 1989, December. I came out, I saw this wall, and at that time it was dark. I ran back into the airport. I said, I'm not getting out of here. I don't know who these people are. No, for real. I stayed at the airport. There were no hotels to go to, so I hung out until the next morning when I could see their faces. Huh? So there are things we do and keep making you. Are we not looking at other people? Are we not observing? Are we not copying? I mean, we are copying, but we have no will to paste. This thing by now shouldn't be a challenge. The engineering to do that is the same thing, but we haven't figured it out to do it to where it is something of joy.
So, I mean, what is the way out? I mean,
The
what's the
way
way
out
out?
is to look at the regional models, okay? Look at how to make airport operation an independent authority. Get rid of ministers of, what is they called? Ministers of aviation. They don't do
Aviation.
anything. Just have policies and regulations. And let this airport be run, not for profit, but for cost. And let them get creative. And when you appoint board members to them, don't pay them salary. And Africans take the cost of running government in Africa is very high because every appointment to them is an opportunity to put their hand in the pocket. No, I have served on many boards and commissions and I don't get paid, but you know what? I get knowledge, and that's why my consulting business does well because people know, oh, Mr. Okpa knows this, Mr. Okpa has access, Mr. Okpa can get us audience. But Africans want to get paid for everything. Pay me, pay. And they dip in their hands and they're having their family members, get the discount to fly. So change that. Change that.
Yeah, I mean, seeing change that sounds easy, but I don't think it's an easy proposition. I
It
mean,
should be easy. If not, then let them live in the hell they live in. Why not? Other people are doing it and succeeding at it. Why can't we do it? Why
yeah,
can't we do
but
it?
I mean, let me take you on the fact you said. Why should they not run it as a profit making venture? I mean, you want to get revenue out from the airport, and maybe that's one way by which if you let the
No.
private
The profit, when you run your business, is profit. But this is common asset, just like water system in America or water boards, municipal boards in America. They're not run for profit; they run for cost. So what I mean is, what is the cost to run the water system? You want to generate revenue that will cover that, and then anything extra on that goes into a capital fund so that you keep maintaining the system. But when you say profit, then you run it like a regular business, and you may have to cut corners. You gotta do all kinds of stuff. No, we don't. We're not talking. We're not saying that. Just like the tollways, the tollways may be private funded, but they are also public authorities. So they don't come in here and say, "Oh, they declare profit." They're happy to make more money over their expenses, and they put it back into the system, or they put it into what they call rainy day accounts or general funds. They can use for, because those things are very expensive to run. I mean, you have capital cost, you have recurring cost, you have all kinds of, improvements you have to make on equipment and real estate. So you have to be very judicious in managing your money and being creative in identifying new revenue streams.
yeah, I mean, the continental African free trade thing is working on getting a single passport. So with one passport, you can fly into as many countries. I think that's the beginning of the regional
Well, I
thing
mean,
that
they
you're
say that. I mean, they say, African Organization of African Unity. If you go and pull the charter, and what they tended to do is the same thing. It hasn't changed. So it's same old wine in new bottle, or new bottle, or new wine in an old bottle. Because you know what, we have had good 60 years of an African country being independent. Ghana's 57. How many years is that? Yeah, 60 what? 64?
yeah, about 63.
Okay, have you heard that expression, a fool at 40 is a fool forever? So a lot of these African countries have gone past 40. And you do the math. How many of them that have passed 40 have actually gotten it right? So they still behave like it's all due. So no, you have to task yourself, just like in your home. You look at where you live in your neighborhood. You look at what your neighbors are doing. If your neighbors are keeping up your lawn, you want your lawn to be overgrown with grass.
Of course not.
So and you're not going to go to school to go get a degree on that. You just observe and say, okay, hey, this is what they're doing. I can do that, or I can even do it better. So that's part of it. That's part of it. I mean, all this piling up on degrees just to look impressive, where you haven't getting nothing done. it's, it's what Africans do. They want to go to school. Or I have a degree. I have a master's degree in aviation science. What crap is that? Or master's degree in infrastructure. I mean, come on. Go see who is doing it. And say, hey, what can I copy from here? Can we have an agreement on technological transfer and help me do this? And then I run with it. But not to go sit in the classroom and piling up on papers and testing and come out and then you can't get anything done. I've seen people say MBA in business. I say, look, if you want to know business, you don't have to go get a degree for it. Go learn it. Go learn the business. MBA is good to have, but it doesn't really make you a businessman. You have to want to be in business, and then you got to get out there and do the punches. But because you spent the additional 24 months after bachelor's and get an MBA doesn't really mean that you're a business person. Business takes a whole lot of different thinking, for people who have different mentality. And it's all about policies. Remember, every business we do in America has regulations and rules. So some people are sitting in the room and making those regulations. And then, the business people take it and run with it, or the business people challenge it and to see, hey, this is what's going to work for us. So that way we can do what we need to do. And that's why, for those of us that are Republicans, we want less government. Let the government out of the way so we can do what we. A whole bunch of Africans are Democrats. That's why they are looking for public money. Excuse my French.
Well,
Businessmen want rules and regulations that is fair and equitable and just. The Democrats want, government take care of me. Government tell me how many kids I'm going to have. Tell me how many, all that kind of socialism.
I disagree with you, but let's leave that for a different day.
Hey, I gotta throw in the elephant and the donkey something here.
I'll take the donkey any day. But let's again something that you and I shared offline. When you Google owners of Gatwick Airport, Gatwick is in London. That's in central London. It gives you the name of a Nigerian, Adebayo Ogunlesi. That's quite impressive.
It's impressive for the person who is reading it that way. He does not own Gatwick Airport. Okay. He has a management contract or a lease on the thing. He didn't build. I mean, he does not. You know what I mean? Own. He doesn't own it. The airport may have been having financial needs, and they were looking for a way to lessen their financial burden, and they created a structure. Just like, I'll give you, for instance, the Capitol building of state of Arizona. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what they call the sell lease back. They sold it, but they leased it back. So they needed capital, they needed money, and they said, what assets do we have we can leverage to get liquidity while this thing is going? And they did that. So would the individual who owns it not say, oh, I own it, I'm going to go shut it down? You can't do that. So for those of us who are in real estate, we understand this sort of structure. So we can't say the gentleman owns the airport. That's a lie. That's just a feel-good thing for Africans who oftentimes are not analytical and they are very shallow. They don't understand the structure of certain things. So they run with it. Why don't he go to Nigeria and own the airport in Lagos? Or let him go create a similar structure and own a bunch of airports in Africa? He can't, because he knows that's not what the London structure is. It's not going to be easy to do. Or like somebody will now show up and say, oh, I own DFW Airport. I say, you might as well own Jesus or own the heaven. So there's a management agreement you can have that gives you that exclusivity on the airport, and because of that management agreement, you might say, okay, for you to increase efficiency, go in and run it properly, or go in and give us some money, give us X amount of money, and then we let you run it for some number of years, but you don't own it. You don't own it.
Right. So even let's stay with the fact of management. That's a great feat, isn't it?
His constantly do that. You can go on the concession in DFW Airport. You can go over there and tell DFW Airport, you know what? You have these 300 restaurants, concessions inside the airport, okay? And they're paying you rent. Okay, how much rent are you getting every year from those concessions? X amount with percentage, what did it sell? You say, you know what? Instead of you waiting to get $300 million over 10 years, I'll give you $200 million now, and I own those rights to the income. Yeah, hey, they can look at it and say, you know what? We'll take a bulk sum of $200 million in place of having to wait over 10 years to get $300 million. It's a discount factor. So you come in as a management consultant, you pay them, and then they give you the leasehold. They allow you the rights to the income of the concessionaires, but you don't own the space. I can give you a lecture on that. I've seen those kind of deals structured. But for us Africans, they jump up and down. Oh my God, an African owns the airport in London. We are right. How come the queen hasn't made her a Tsar? We have to understand the structure of things so that we can understand how these things work. Airport is not an easy asset to be involved in. You know, so
Yeah.
it's
So
because it's a public safety. Huh?
while I agree with you, I just want to say, I mean, there's a possibility of him, and you asked the question, which is where I was going to. He's able to get a management contract with Gatwick, and he's able to turn that around, and has done that with 2 or 3 other airports.
Mm-hmm.
But his own home country. I mean, it's a problem for us Africans. You know, the I don't want to say the danger or the sad fact that successful Africans find it difficult to replicate their success stories back at home. And we can give many reasons, isn't it? The government, red tape, and all that, you know. But I believe that for a man who has been so successful in taking over airports that are falling away because of poor management and is able to turn those around, finds it incapable. I would imagine that global infrastructure partners, which is a company that Ogunlesi owns, should at least have a presence in an African country to show that success. So, what is wrong with that?
Okay, look, the Ogunde, whatever guy is, I think he's in New York. He
Yes.
raised money and he chases deals and then he makes a margin. That's not his money. But of course, he lives well, he's able to do it. See, money chases deals. And the reason money will chase deals, they chase it if the environment has the legal backing to make sure that the risk is mitigated. Or so it's not such that the minister wakes up one day and cancel everything, and the president backs him or her, say, "Oh yeah, you can do that." So that's why people find comfort in investing in America, because you don't need to know the president to invest in this country. You don't need to know the mayor. You don't need to know the governor, because there are rules that govern certain things. Of course, when they say there's a tax benefit, that tax benefit may be based on the amount of money invested. Well, I mean, in fact, that's when the mayor wants to know you, but you don't have to know the mayor to go buy a piece of property. And even if you're buying a city asset, the mayor is just a vote, except it's a mayor and executive mayor, depending on the charter the city has. So there are a lot of things that give investors comfort. There's a lot of things that make people like this guy, you mentioned their name, do what they do. But in the case of their native land or their country of birth or country of ancestry, they're not able to do it because over there, those rules and laws are lousy and they are tribally based. So this guy is Yoruba guy by his last name. If he wants to do it in the north, oh my God, with the Muslims and the Hausas and everybody, the Fulanis will all go crazy. Yeah, if he wants to do it in Igbo land. So the Africans are still very limited by, their tribal identity. That's what sort of forms who they deal with and how they deal. Oh, is this my man? Is it from my village? Is it from my tribe? I mean, So, but over in these other countries, I mean, of course, you may have some resentment and pushback, but geez, they put out a request for proposal, and your proposal wins based on the points they're going to score you on. You the winner. They don't care the color of your skin. The thing is, are you going to make us money? It's the African that say, I don't care because he's a Cameroonian. I don't care how brilliant he or she is. I'm not going to let them come over here and do it. But you see, remember in some of the earlier conversation we had, I said Europeans came to America and became what? White people, is it not?
Yeah.
So a white man can go to any European country and still do business. Because no longer they are saying, oh, are you German? Are you Irish? Are you Italian? Of course, they might, through conversation, they can identify that. But they are not going to restrict them because you're not from Italy. But geez, if I could try to go to Cameroon, as soon as I land at the airport, they're going to ship me out, man, go back to Nigeria. So we limit. And by us limiting, we also limit our capacity to be successful in what we are doing. Because it's no longer the knowledge you have, the creative solution you bring in, or the partnership. It becomes more of the tribe. Do we like you? You kick us back? I mean, there are ways people get benefit without obviously, kicking back. Have you heard the term making money under the table?
That sounds like corruption.
Okay, but the problem with making money under the table?
No.
You bump your head because the table has a limit. Mm-hmm. So somehow you're going to bump your head if you're under the table. But if
You
you
want to
make it
make it
on
on the
top of the
table.
table, the sky is your limit. So Africans want to make money under the table, and that's why they keep bumping their head. Hmm? So you look at all the ministers and the presidents or whomever may have taken bribe. How many of them, after they leave office, have created viable companies? In fact, that should be a topic or a research topic. How many how many so-called African people in government who everybody celebrates is rich? When they leave office, how many of them have gone out to create viable corporations, even though they may have more money than everybody? Because they're not business people. They've made money under the table. So now they can't make it on top of the table because they don't know how. No, look at every company. Go look at the largest company in Africa, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, and this, and see whether it is created by politics. The politicians may be behind funneling money, but they're not going to say, "Oh, I was a former minister of aviation. Let me go start an airline. Let me go start something, to show that I have learned." Lambert, you know, Africa produces a lot of minerals and oil and gas. Hmm?
Yeah, yeah.
And the big players in that industry are, of course, the majors. Do you know no African has ever been invited to serve on the board of any of these major oil companies, despite Africans having, having oil and stuff? Because there's nothing, when they serve on the board, they have nothing, the board is not looking to them for any knowledge because they have none. So no African has served as a board member in Shell, Exxon, Chevron, name them, Ajib,
BP.
BP. So you would think, okay, when they leave as the president, they will invite you. No, they're happy you are gone. They're going to create a relationship to deal with the incoming president because it's all about under the table. But in America, they invite you. When you leave office, they know that you have learned something. You know policies. You can help them, guide them to success in certain things. They put you on the board and they pay you. But no, so they don't invite them, and that's why a lot of them want to stay in there for life and become lifeless.
Yeah, again, that's the typical problem of the Africans. That's why many people celebrate when they get to government. And here in the Western world, many people don't even want to get to government, because again, they don't see it as an avenue to make money. But again, back to our topic for today, aviation and African development. I am looking at the fact of, if we cannot change the airport, we can change the things around the airport. We can begin to change gradually. And I think that the uh, the things about the parking garage, for example, car rental services, hotels around, those are things that people can begin to invest in.
Let me give you an example because I'm very familiar with DFW Airport. There's what they call the aviation land and the non-aviation land. So the aviation land is controlled. Okay, this is where everything that has to do with aviation. But then surrounding the airport is what they call the non-aviation land. That's where you have the warehouses and hotels. Sometimes you even have a hotel inside the airport. We recently had a meeting with somebody flying in from Guyana, and from the time of the arrival to go to a location outside of the airport to meet, it wasn't going to be enough. So we decided to host him at a hotel inside the airport. Now that hotel is on a ground lease owned by DFW authority. So they will lease them the land to build the hotel. They have some offices there. So these are some of the structures of doing the deal. And they pay ground rent. They may have what they call percentage lease sale. So if you do pass a certain volume of revenue, you share that overage, with the authority. Okay, in DFW Airport, it's also a gas producing wells over there.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have gas. They have gas wells that are producing. But when they started drilling those gas wells, they didn't shut down the airport. If it was in Nigeria, they would have, let's move the airport. Now let's sell gas. the minister of mineral, whatever they call them, or will come in there. The president will find a way to, own some blocks. But they drill about 600 or so wells, or there are 600 or so wells on the airport land, and they did it, and the airport is still operating. No disruption, and they make money from that. They didn't create an oil company. They just leased the rights to the gas to an oil company who came in and did the deal. So these are things they do, and they do it seamlessly, effortlessly, and everybody makes money. But it takes creative minds, and then finding the proper law. If the law is not there, then you go to the Congress or House state representative or the cities that own the airport and ask them to give you the right to do these things. So American businesses are driven by rules and regulations and laws, and not the African where it's just by the wind. Your brother becomes president, all of a sudden you're a construction company because you can, they'll give you contract to build something. You know how it works?
Yes.
Or you're somebody in your family or your friend, you say, hey man, can you import school supplies for me? And then for the duration they're in office, you all are doing well. Once the person leaves, you shut down that business because you haven't learned anything in the business. You were purely transactional, and your transaction was just strictly based on the fact that you know him or her, and both of you are kicking back and kicking front and making money under the table and pumping your head. So aviation again, what I'm saying is that the non-aviation land and the aviation land, they have shopping centers, they have retail. I mean, if you go to DFW airport, you know how many people are employed working in that airport? More than 35,000 people work at DFW airport.
Wow.
It's like a village. It's bigger than Manhattan. It has its own zip code. It has streets. I mean, it has its water system. It has its sewer system. So, because it's an economic engine.
Yeah, and which is the point that you have been hammering this evening about the airport being an economic engine, and that is how the government should look at it. And those who are interested in private investment should also be looking at it. And just one aspect that you mentioned, which I think is an area that you have talked about frequently, is waste management, because not many people are thinking about waste management in Africa. You don't have waste management companies that can take advantage of the opportunities at airports and be able to bring an impact. I mean, even if with that, and I think getting the government to concentrate on that the airport as a public good, should be something that people should be able to walk through. So I mean, there are just too many opportunities in this thing, but you see, the
Africans
government
take
lacks.
opportunity. Here's the difference between the Western culture and the African. Okay, Africa look at opportunities as problems. The Western people look at it as a challenge. And when you take something as a challenge, what does it do for you? It makes you want to take care of it, is it not? But when you look at it as a problem, you have this psychological reaction. Oh my God, there's nothing I can do. So Africans don't see the challenges they have as opportunities and try to find ways to do it. Because most times everything, well, let the government do it. Let the governor do it. God will come help us. We are praying that they will do it. I mean, God did not create just black people or Africans. I mean, there are 7 billion people in the world. Africa population of 1 billion is like 13%. So what makes anybody think God is just going to select Africans and reward them? He's not going to do it because that means he's going to be partial. So you got to take things as here's a challenge. Oh wow, it's an opportunity. It's a challenge. Our airport is not running well. What can we do? So we get into the drawing board. I mean, this is where the consultants and the advisors come in, but which Africans don't like to use. Everything you see in America starts with a consultant, an advisor, coming to ask you, what do we do? How do we do it? What are the obstacles we get? What laws do we need to have introduced in order for us to effect this move? Africans just want to start doing it. And so that's the difference. Knowledge, because you Googled how to do surgery doesn't make you a surgeon. And Africans, they are fond of doing that. Oh, Lambert is doing well because he has an MBA from the same school. No. Maybe Lambert don't sleep. Like his brain works in a different kind of mode. Just don't try to copy his brain. Ask him how, hey man, what would it take for you to come do it for us? Have you ever seen an African ask you, what would it take for you to do it? Instead they say, oh man, come do it, man. It's our people. Did your people pay for you to go get knowledge? They don't pay for knowledge. They want it free. So you have to build your team. You have to select people who can come in and energize you and tell you how to. But it's all about the law. If the law is not in there, if the law is not stable, if the people who can interpret the law are lousy, nothing. You just go in and start doing transaction because, like Dangote, is the richest black man, but it's not. It's not a wealthy man because he's a monopoly. He enjoys government support. Now, if competition were to be opened in the things he do, he won't survive. He won't survive. You go look at there's no company associated with him that has a value of $1 a share for the richest black man in the world. Just like people jump up and down about Oprah Winfrey. What company is associated with Oprah Winfrey? Can you buy shares in Oprah Winfrey company? So black people just have money, but they don't have companies that people can buy shares in and invest in order to do what, so that as they're doing well, you're doing well. Michael Jordan is a millionaire. He endorses Nike and all. Does he own it? He doesn't. He gets endorsement money and they pay him well. So you name one wealthy, rich black person whose company is listed on the stock exchange that we can go buy shares. None. That this whatever name guy you talked about, hey, I would like to see his infrastructure fund listed so we all can go put money in it, and then he can go around Africa and take over all the airports. But it's not listed. But you look at Google, Amazon, Microsoft. I mean, the money they get is because you and I are always buying shares in this company. And as the companies are doing well, your stock price is going up, or they're sending you dividend checks. So we need companies that are going to be bigger than the individual who started them. And when it comes to some point, you move on. You surrender. Bill Gates is no longer involved with the day-to-day running of Microsoft. He's not. Just like Boeing, just like Ford, and all these big American companies that are there, creating jobs and doing big things. Why come we don't have companies like that? And we change management, we change the board, we fire the chairman, whomever. If they don't perform to the level we want them, we kick them out. In Nigeria, there's this guy who owned, who was chairman of UBA, Tony Elumelu. They say one time he was richer than the bank. I say, how can one individual be richer than a bank?
He had done his due diligence now. He has a degree.
Yeah, well, he's done his due diligence under the table. Because, I mean, no. Okay, it's, Diamond is the CEO of Chase Bank. Can you imagine one day they say, Mr. Diamond is be richer than Chase Bank? It's not going to happen. He may have enough, but it's not. So because you sat in a company and traded hours, but when people buy shares in Chase Bank, they're not looking at Mr. Diamond. They're looking at the performance of what is his name, of Chase Bank, or the group of companies identified with it. So what I'm saying, we have to divorce ourselves from the individual, richness, and look at wealth created by companies that we all can be part of. You own 10 shares, 100 shares, 1,000 shares, and the companies are run well, and they are accountable to the shareholders or the stockholders, and not to the president, and not to the minister. That's where the wealth is built. That's where the wealth is created. not what is in the individual's pocket, because every individual is going to come to an end one day. They're going to die, even though companies can die, but they don't just don't die like individuals. They can be acquired, they can emerge, they can merge, and have a different name, but they keep going.
So there are a couple of people who were on. Marilyn, when you talked about the Republicans, she was very happy. She said, "Thank you, Sir Okpa. Greetings from your fellow African Republican." Hansel Ray, thank you. Business is all about making money under the table. How many businesses are clean is the question.
Well, I tell him, I say, let him stay under the table. I make mine on top of the table because the sky is the limit. And for the lady who's a fellow Republican, it's easy to do. There's nobody drinks blue wine, but people go for red wine. So the Republican is red. Have you ever gone to a party? If you go to a party and somebody offer you a blue wine, the heck no. So tell her next time I see her, hopefully she will like the red wine, because she ain't gonna like blue. There's no blue wine.
The sky is blue, and you want to be on top of the sky. So hey, come over and meet us.
The sky is blue, but nobody drinks the sky.
Yes. Yeah, Marilyn, I don't think when I talked about parking garage, I was giving an instant. There are many things, isn't it? We're looking at the opportunities.
Oh, yeah. In fact, there's an industry that's called the aviation real estate. You can go look it up and see what they do. There's a sector called the aviation real estate. It's all the uses that surround airports that make it the engine that it is. Because that's what attracts those businesses to be there. Logistics, warehousing, hotels, restaurants, gift shop, stuff. People, because you have a lot of people moving in and out. Layover. If you're gonna have a 6-hour layover, I've done it in London. But I don't go through London anymore. You cannot pay me to fly through London to go to Africa. I mean, I can fly to London to go see family, but I'm not gonna fly through London ever to catch a plane to go to Africa. But when I had those 6-hour layovers, I'm always like, what am I going to do? So I probably want to get into town because they have trains or transport. In fact, the first time I went to Congo in '95, I was flying through, I was on Air France, flying through Paris. When I got over there, I went into Paris. I paid a cab guy. I said, take me around as long as you bring me at this time so I can catch my flight. I went, and there was a guy from was it Cameroon or Congo? Because he was French-speaking guy. So he picked me up, and we went around town. I still have a picture I took with him. I don't remember his name anymore. But while I was there, I spent more than $100 buying them. I don't even remember what I bought. But we stopped. We had dinner. I mean lunch. I bought some shoe. I bought this you French-speaking people, they know how to make nice shoes. So I still have that shoe.
Yeah. So again, I think we have been on for an hour's great conversation. I want to thank you, Sir Okpa, and we are looking at aviation in Africa, and it seems as if airports in Africa there are great opportunities, but also great challenges. And as always, we can take advantage of the opportunities and see how to overcome the challenges. I want to thank you all, Sir Okpa. Any last words?
Well, remember, Africa has existed like every other continent. So the question was, what is it going to take to catch on and catch up? It has to come from us. It cannot be, where foreign people coming in and tell you. Somebody has to be invested in your community for a long term in order for the impacts to be felt. If it's just this transaction, you come in, you make money, and you run out, it's not going to do. So Africans need to start investing in themselves and recruiting Africans that are in America, regardless of their national origin, to come in there and have conversation with them on how to make things work better. But that's a mind shift that is hard for Africans to do. Africans suffer from poverty of mind, not poverty of means. And because of that poverty of mind, which is incurable to a good extent, it's hard for them to see beyond the transactions and go for things that are actually transformative. So I don't know what it would take to make that happen, but it can be done. Because at this stage in the 21st century, no African person should be carrying water on their head. Eh?
Yeah.
No African country should exist without water system and sewer system and no more open gutters. I mean, what 90% or more of what you need to build roads are local. So why have how come we haven't built those roads? 90% or more. But if you're going to go from Yaoundé to Douala or Douala to Cross River in Nigeria, crossing a river, is it not like a whole day? And then you look at Congo Brazzaville and Congo Kinshasa, the world closest to country capitals, and they have no bridge connecting them. So these are things we have to. That is opportunities, but if we look at them as problems, we can never get to it because problems are psychological. They can demoralize you. So let's all rise and always look at. America loves some of these things that happen to it. Like when we have horrible weather that came in, it becomes opportunities for us to build our houses stronger or differently. I mean, even though Mother Nature will come and do what it has to do, but all those things lead to other things being done and done better. Or people go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what sort of materials do we need to have? When the banks collapsed in the 80s, it came up with the rules about making it harder for banks to collapse the way they did back then. So those are challenges, but they led to opportunities for new ways. So I have no magic wand. I am not smarter than anybody, but there are certain things I know I will not deal with. I don't make money under the table because I don't want to bump my head. I'm going to make it on top of the table. And so that when you ask me, I say, hallelujah, I did it. So thank you. And I think next week I am out of the country until May 5th.
Okay.
So that gives you opportunity to now chill from my nuisance.
I know you're not a nuisance, Okpa. Yeah, we'll miss you and safe travels. Thank you. So we'll see you maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
I'll be back here May 5th. So whatever the schedule is from that time, I'm available.
Okay. So thank you all. It's been a great evening. Stay safe, stay blessed. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.